Hey, innovators, how are you? Today we are going to be making camera obscura devices. These little pinhole boxes allow light to enter through this pinhole and they project an image inside of the box that you're able to see through this viewing hole. Now, this simple device is going to allow us to explore how photography works and how modern cameras work. So, let's grab our materials and let's get started. So for this project, you're going to need a small box. I'm going to work with a small Kleenex box, just like this. If you have two smaller ones, that works fine too. I'm going to need a good pair of scissors, some tape. I have Scotch and masking tape. You can use one piece of tissue paper, or you can also use some wax or parchment paper. And last but not least, you'll need some solid paper. Okay. Innovators, now that we've gathered our materials, we can get started. Now, for my project, I use a large tissue box. If you have two smaller tissue boxes, that'll work just as well. All you have to do is take the two boxes where the openings are and put them together, or you can also just use a cardboard box. Shoe boxes work really well, or small boxes that you may have gotten in packaging. So just work with what you have. Okay, now the next part is going to involve actually constructing the box and putting a projection screen in the middle of it. Now, I used a piece of tissue paper, but you can also work with wax paper, and in some cases you can even use really thin fabric. Again, work with what you got, and you'll have to experiment a little to see what gives you the best results. So, let's get to work. Alright, so the first step of our project is to grab our tissue box. I'm using a large Kleenex box, and I'm just going to cut it right down the middle. Now, if you're using two smaller tissue boxes, all you have to do is take the two ends with the openings and put them together. Have the two openings face each other, and you'll be ready to go. So, I'm going to cut my box in half. If you have an adult, they can help you with a box cutter. Otherwise, scissors work just fine. That looks good. You can take any extra tissue. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the two small plastic tabs. These are the ones that hold the tissue up whenever you pull one out of the box. So I'm going to quickly remove that. Okay. And I'll do the same to the other side. Perfect. Okay. I think we're ready to move on to the next part of the project. Now, our camera obscura devices are going to need a screen that's going to sit in the middle of your box. So I'm going to use one sheet of tissue, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully take one corner of the tissue, and you can actually separate it into two smaller, thinner pieces. You have to do it very carefully, or else they'll rip. So, I'm just going to take one side piece of this tissue, and I'm going to use this as the screen. You can also use parchment paper or wax paper. It's a little more durable, but I like the quality of the images I got using the tissue. So, I'll lay it over one half of my box, and I'm going to use some Scotch tape to secure it around the perimeter. Now, the screen is a very, very important part of your camera obscura device. So you want to make sure that you're taking your time doing this step, that you don't get any rips or tears, and that you are tightly pulling the tissue or wax paper across so that the image you get inside your box doesn't have any wrinkles in it. That looks great, and I have one more side to tape down, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, this is looking great. Now, I can go ahead and cut off the corners, or I can just let them be. For the next step in the process, we are going to take the two boxes and we're going to join them together using some masking tape. Again, you can use Scotch tape if you prefer, but you're going to put the two tissue halves together, and you're going to use some masking tape or Scotch tape. You can even use duct tape. Duct tape is great and really strong. And all you're going to do is you're going to secure the two box halves together. So now you have a larger rectangular box with a screen in the middle. Your screen is either made of the tissue paper or the wax paper that you used. Now, one thing that you should start to make sure is that no light, that you're covering up all of the little holes and no light is getting inside of your box. The reason for this is that the Camera Obscura device requires a really, really dark space. So the less light gets in, the better your image will look. So I'm taking this a step further. My box has a big hole on the top, and I want to make sure that it's completely dark. So I'm going to take some thick construction paper. You can use stock paper, or you can use whatever you have at home. And I'm going to secure them all around my box. I want to make sure that no light is getting in. So I'm going to use a lot of tape just to make sure that everything is secure. Now, if you remember, my box is made of two halves, so there might be some spaces in between the two boxes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this a step further, and I'm going to wrap some dark paper right over that seam, and I'm going to secure it with some tape. Again, I want to make sure that no light is getting inside of this box. Now, use as much paper or as much tape as you need to make sure that your box is completely covered, and take your time. This is crucial in order to make your Camera Obscura device work. Alright, well, I'm pretty happy with the way this is turning out. I might add a little more tape, but I think I'm ready. So, for the next step, the easiest way for you to create a pinhole or cut a little hole is with a box cutter. So please ask an adult to give you a hand with this part. You can use a box cutter or an X-Acto knife. And what you want to do is you want to cut out a small rectangular or square hole that's about half an inch to an inch on each side. Just like this. That's perfect. That's going to be our viewing hole. On the other side, you're going to take your box cutter or X-Acto knife, and you're going to make a really small pinhole. You can also use a nail if you have one. It needs to be small and let the light in. Now this is looking pretty sharp. I think we're ready to test. Now, innovators, it's now time to test our Camera Obscura boxes. What you're going to want to do is you're going to point a little pinhole in the direction of something that's really lit up. Okay, so you want to make sure that the sun is shining strongly on your subject. Through the other hole, through your square viewing piece, you're going to place your eye, and if you're pointing it at something, it should appear in your screen that's right in the middle of this box. Now, the trick is you want to make sure that no light is entering this box. The darker it is, the clearer the image will be inside of your box. The only light that should be entering is through the pinhole. It will then go through the pinhole, the image will flip, and it's going to appear upside down inside of your screen. Okay, now some tricks that you can do is you can just hold your hand closely, like so, and tightly cover up the pinhole camera. Another trick that you can try is you can just take a towel, or you can take some kind of dark fabric, and you're going to drape it over yourself like so. And just like an old style camera, you're going to take it and you're going to drape it over yourself and the pinhole box like so, blocking all light. You should be able to see a really clear, maybe a little fuzzy image inside of your box. Now, a really fun challenge that you can do is you can take your cell phone camera. Under your towel, you'll hold up the camera to your little viewing piece, and you should be able to snap an image of what you see projected onto the screen inside. The cool thing is then you can go into your phone and you can flip the image so that it is the correct way. So give that a shot and experiment, and let's see what we come up with. Awesome. Now, innovators, people have been using camera obscura devices around the world for hundreds of years. The earliest documentation that we have is from a Chinese thinker who was using one around 600 BC. We know that a lot of early astronomers also used camera obscura devices in order to look at the sun without damaging their eyes. And last but not least, there are lots of famous painters who used large-scale camera obscura devices in order to trace the images that they later painted. Now, much like a camera, the camera obscura lens takes in light and it projects an image. Now, depending on the size of your pinhole, your image is going to look different inside. If you have a smaller pinhole, your image will be in much greater focus, but it'll be a little bit more dim. Now, if your pinhole is much wider, you may have a brighter image on the inside, but it may be a little more blurry. So just like a real camera, depending on how much you open the aperture, the focus of your camera is going to look a little different. So, great project to experiment with. You have lots of different options. Try them all out. Now, for the last part of our project, innovators, you're going to use a cell phone camera or a camera on a tablet or iPad, and you're going to line it up with your viewing hole, and you're going to snap a picture of the interior screen. Now, my first one was done with wax paper. As you can see, the picture's a little bit grainy, but you can make out my garage. Now, with a piece of tissue paper, the results were much more clear. Yeah, you should experiment with what type of screen you make. But I had to reverse the image once I took it because when it first appeared, it was upside down. All right, innovators, we did some awesome projects, and using your camera obscura devices, you'll be able to snap some pictures with your cell phone. See what you can come up with. This is an awesome project to use design thinking. You'll be able to create different prototypes and models of your device and then test them out. Try out new things and see what results you get. Now, good work today. Remember to always think creatively and to think critically. Thanks for watching. Make sure to catch the next one.